I can't imagine that Reuters news service is going to treat this issue very, very gently. It did take CNN a day to finally come forward and cover this WikiLeaks story, but I think the media has to be looking at all the dead reporters that we're seeing in the war zones and realizing that maybe cutting the government slack on these wars isn't such a good idea, because they could be next. They could
exactly.
Be the next.
Here's another video to search of hundreds. It was another Reuters reporter. Tank kills Reuters reporter. And he's out front in the street with his camera. He's videotaping with a full crew. They just drive right up and machine gun him from the top of the tank. I mean, there's been so many of these, but they're hardly ever on U.S. TV. But as you said earlier, the entire world is seeing this every day and knows that the United States is the Legion of Doom. And for people that say, oh, kill all them Hajis, they're not human, the bankers see you as not being human as well. That's why they're announcing they're preparing to take all of your pension funds and bank accounts for the banks in the next banking takeover, in the next crisis they stage. So remember, all of you out there that have turned into demons supporting this, by extension, remember, the same elite sees you the way they see the Hajis, as they call them, the ragheads, that with those type of racist statements. And obviously, ladies and gentlemen, things are only going to get worse from here. And everybody's kind of forgotten about the wars because Obama's in, and he's continuing to torture everything else. Mike Rivero, straight ahead. We'll be right back. Now, see, the issue here is they find a guy with some wood he's gotten out of a field. I've watched the whole Frontline piece. This is what they're cooking their food with. And they say, no, this is how we win your hearts and minds. You were caught getting some wood. We're now going to shoot your car up and laugh, then run over it back and forth with a $2 million tank that could damage the tank, and then laugh at you. They laugh. It's an enjoyment. They kill dogs. It's an enjoyment. Mike Rivero.
Yeah, it is not an image that we, the American taxpayers, want to see out in the world, because we pay for it all. And ultimately, in theory, we're responsible. These these troops are the public face of America, and we're all being told that we're bringing democracy to these people, that we're there, that they're supposed to be welcoming us with flowers, and then we get this slap in the face that our troops are behaving just like the Nazis in occupied territory. And, you know, years from now, I'm sure they'll be making movies about the American troops, and they'll be portrayed on the screen the way we now portray the Nazis, as these inhuman monsters that take incredible delight in what they're doing. And by the way, as a little historical footnote, the Nazis were real big on drugging their troops as well. They were using more natural chemicals like St. John's wort and valerian root. They were giving their troops this stuff.
Oh, they were giving them. They were also giving them anabolic steroids.
And methadone was invented by the Nazis, I understand, as a battlefield drug to make them stronger, more fearless, to see better in the dark, and to basically feel no inhibitions whatsoever about going out and doing what they were doing to the targeted populations. So we're following along in a very ignoble tradition, if you will. And with regard to this targeting of reporters, I was thinking during the break, back during the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003, where the journalists were all put in this one hotel in Baghdad, and I remember this video where this tank across the block, this traffic circle, literally turned and shelled the hotel where the press was located, and there were signs identifying that this was the media center and everything. And, you know, afterwards, you know, the military was making jokes about it and said, well, I had my finger on the trigger, and they had a big sign saying press. So, and, you know, aha, and very, very funny. But, yeah, even back then, the military were killing the reporters. They didn't want them around to see. Well,
there was a London Guardian article where the reporter was with the Marines, and they got a .50 caliber rifle in Basra, and this woman's walking with children in her hands, leading them, and they said, look at that bleeper, called her a name, and they placed bets, and it was 1,000 yards away on whether they could blow her head off. Then they blow her head off, and they have a big celebration, and then back at base, the reporter confronts them, and a bunch of Marines chant, we love killing kids. And it turns out the Marines now have a chant about go out in the school ground, let the little bastards gather around, mow them down, you know, throw the candy on the ground, watch the little bleepers gather around, then mow them down. I mean, this is demonic. I mean, they might as well start wearing devil horns or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is not the image of the war that we're being fed here at home, where, our troops are really good guys and they're being welcomed and everybody loves them and we only ever target the bad guys. And yet we're seeing from all of these various theaters, whether it's Pakistan or wherever, that the U.S. government is killing 40, 50 non-combatant civilians for every one suspected terrorist. And again, we don't really know if there was anybody there that needed, that justified that kind of an attack.
Plus, we're invading them. They weren't involved in 9/11. No one even says that now. But what about all the cases where they go into a family, rape them, and then kill everybody to cover it up?
And then dig the bullets out, which we're getting another report about that in Afghanistan.
Yeah, in fact, I forgot to get that and send it to you. A New York Times, Pentagon admits cover-up in Village Massacre. So that's there. And then Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was going to come home and expose the whole war as a fraud, so they fragged him. They murdered him.
For the first time ever, the secret agenda of the planet's ruthless superclass is exposed in stark detail.
There is such a thing as insidious influence. Does it involve some sort of psychological domination?
No world order that elevates one nation or group of people over another will succeed.
It's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
So it's going to be an inner ruling elite and then everyone else. And I got news for you. You're everyone else.
The whole concept of New World Order, it really says that the state is God.
They created in all of the British dependencies what they call roundtable groups.
At a higher level of COG government, where the constitutional authorities are not allowed to go.
The New World Order really is a tool for addressing a new world of possibilities.
The people running this country are determined to destroy it.
You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time.
This evil will not be done in my name or my family's name. Invisible Empire, the new film, it starts shipping in just, 8 days? 9 days. Order the DVD now. Support us, but more importantly, make copies of it. It gives you the history of the New World Order, how they operate, their mindset, who they are, how to stop them. 18 months in the making, our new film, Invisible Empire, New World Order Defined, and then coming out a week later, you can pre-order the DVD now. Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA, totally proves the COG government, the shadow government, the FEMA camps, where they are, the executive orders, the torture, the riot police at the G20. Both films available now at Infowars.com. They will also premiere at prisonplanet.tv on the 15th and 21st for prisonplanet.tv members that are also watching us live right now, an added level to the syndicated radio broadcast. You can also call toll-free to order both the new films, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or write to me, Alex Jones, P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas, 78760. The people are now ready to be awakened. The people are now ready to see the truth. Get the films, get them out to everybody, key tools in the info war, and see your purchase as a donation to make what we do here possible. If you believe in what we're doing, we need your financial support. Going back to Mike Rivero, whatreallyhappened.com. Mike, I keep going back to this, but I want you to speak to it in detail. Then we're going to play longer clips with the cuss words cut out of the murder operation with this gun camera footage from these Apaches for the radio listeners and viewers. But, Mike, specifically, people think they're in a bubble here in the U.S. and that we can lie about people and invade them and kill them and do all these things and that we won't be abused here. But the very same police state grid is being put in place here. Mike Rivero.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen the LRADs are going out there. They're talking about the microwave pain guns. They're using tasers incredibly recklessly. The same tools of public oppression that we're seeing at use on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan are going to be directed against the American people by the U.S. government in order to perpetuate its own power and privilege and wealth. We're descending into a fascist economy. There is absolutely no question about that at this point, and the U.S. government is not going to surrender its power willingly. We're looking at all these 10th resolution movements in the states. The governor of Utah just signed a bill using eminent domain to try and recover some of the lands the federal government has stolen. That's going to wind up in a court fight. At some point, we're going to see federal troops marching into a state in order to enforce federal law over the state's wishes, and at that point, we're going to see some shooting start. But the bottom line is no tyrannical government ever gave up power willingly just because it was the will of the people. I have been, the whole purpose of my website and radio show for the last 16 years has been to try and find a way to get the government pointed back to a republic without bloodshed. I'm beginning to be convinced that the U.S. government is never going to allow that to happen. It's either going to collapse or there's going to be some kind of a civil war. Of the two, obviously, I favor collapse without bloodshed like the Soviet Union did. If there is a war in this country, I hope it'll be as short as the Romanian Revolution. That was over in just 2 weeks.